Hello everybody, I'm Catriona Morten, I'm a sensory-motor psychotherapist, and today what I'd like to talk to you about is untangling tricky dynamics, and in particular the perpetrator, rescuer, victim model, because I'm very aware that there's a lot of people get very stuck in this triangle, and once you're stuck in it, it's really difficult to get out of it or to understand what's going on. But before I jump into that too much, if you're enjoying these videos, then give us a like and subscribe to our channel, because it really helps us get out there and get out to more of you. This is a model that I don't know whose model it is. If anybody out there does know who originally did this model, then please let us know in the comments, because I can't remember. It was something that I first became aware of when I did my probation placement when I was training to be a social worker. And they used it an awful lot to try and explain to people, because obviously we were working with offenders, trying to explain to people how they got into this and the role that they're playing. And I've always kept it in mind, and it's such a useful model, because very often when there's things going on, and it doesn't need to just be three people, but it's three roles, and it's really good to kind of sometimes understand what role we're playing when we're in this, and also, are we in this? And if we're in it, what do we need to do in order to break the cycle or get out of it? So if I give you a couple of kind of examples of what can happen. Now, a lot of us have, rightly so, quite a good sense of injustice and wrongdoing. We are very susceptible to jumping in and taking on the role of rescuer. Rescuer is probably the most common role that people enter into this, because we have to have a perceived victim, somebody who has had a wrong done to them. And this person, if you know, it's like, oh, that's so unfair, so-and-so did that. Oh, there's no way they should be doing that. No, there isn't. If you enter as rescuer with the 100% best of intentions about, you know, supporting somebody, righting a wrong, and you can do that in a really healthy way. I'm not saying never do that. I'm just saying if you find yourself in this dynamic, if you enter into this place as rescuer and you take all of the responsibility, it kind of leaves the victimized person with none or very little. And so we hold the responsibility, and so we have to now sort this out. And what can happen, well, there's a number of things that can happen. One, we can try and approach what we're perceiving and what we're calling. I'm using these terms. I don't particularly like these terms, but this is the terms in the model, and it helps to just keep it really simple. So if we then approach the perpetrator and try and either tackle them on it or talk about this and deal with it, sometimes that could go really well, but it can also go really badly, because there's a dynamic between those two that you don't understand the whole ins and outs of it. If you've entered not understanding what is actually passing between these two people, then you can find yourself in a mess. I'm trying to sort things out, and da-da-da-da-da. Now, the victim could quite easily say to you, what have you done? You've made everything worse. Oh my God. They're now in a different role. You stepped in as the rescuer, but suddenly you can either now take the role of perpetrator, what have you done? Or now you're the victim. It's like, well, I was only trying to help. I didn't think that would happen. How did that? You can see, if you're in the place of victim, I often think it really helps to kind of look at things as a sort of upside down energy system, a transaction system. If you're in the victim role, you're underneath. I'm here, you know, everything's crushing me. There's nothing I can do. I can't get this weight off me. I can't, you know, bring any light into my world. If you can turn that around and say, okay, this thing has happened to me, what can I do about it? What are my options? You're coming from a very different place with a very different mindset and a different energy. And you can see this swapping as these roles interplay with each other. And the thing about this triangle, this model, is that once you're in it, the roles will be passed around, and you'll frequently find yourself saying things like, how did that happen? Or, I don't get what's going on. Or, well, I was only trying to help and now it's all backfired on me. And these roles become very interchangeable. How come I'm now the bad guy? I'm at the top, I'm the perpetrator. How the heck did that happen? If we're stepping into a dynamic, one, without actually knowing really what that dynamic is. Two, if we step in from a place of high emotion, when we're really, really emotional about something, and that's whether we're angry or really upset or even that sense of outrage, if we're acting from a place of emotion, we're not really likely to be fully online in a calm, rational place. We're much more likely to be acting on a kind of impulse, an action that matches that emotion. And, I often say when people are like super, super, super angry, they're kind of thick as mince because we're not talking rationally. We say daft things that we don't mean. And we're offline. That's why we do that. We're offline. We're not thinking. We're not calm. We're not rational. So if you're entering into any kind of dynamic from that place, it's quite likely to end not great. When we also enter a dynamic and we're aware that we've entered and now we're holding a great big bundle of the responsibility for what happens next, and that's either somebody's welfare, their well-being, or something that has to happen, then be very wary. Because one, it leaves the person who probably needs the responsibility, maybe doesn't want it, it's like, oh yeah, you have it, great, I'm devoid of it. But that's not helpful. It doesn't help us. If we always pass responsibility to the outcome onto somebody else, or, oh, but it's because of so-and-so, then we don't learn from that. We don't say, what bit of that was my responsibility? What could I do next differently? Take the blame out. It's like, okay, what actually happened in this dynamic? And if you look at it as a passing of blame or responsibility around, then it can really help to understand the kind of, I don't know what happened. What happened? When we only look at it in the context of things, the words, the stuff that's going on, and don't look at either the power play underneath or the role and the responsibility. Also, if you enter into anything like this and one of the people in this triangle is manipulative or has a narcissist part, get out as quickly as possible, because you won't understand the games that are being played. Well, you might be better at game playing than me. Me, not a clue. I don't understand that kind of manipulation and game playing, so I get one whiff of that and I'm out. It doesn't feel safe for me. The people that I work with and that I have around me are very authentic. What they say matches their actions and everything just matches. So if you get a whiff that somebody in there is playing a game and putting you into different roles, try and get out. The best way to kind of get out is literally take the responsibility for it, take your own bit that you were responsible for, name it, give it back and remove yourself. We can all help someone without taking on ownership of it. If somebody's really upset, if they're angry, if they're whatever's going on, often all we need is somebody to kind of, yeah, I get it, to sit next to us, to just be, allow us to be. Sometimes people come in because it's like, oh, I don't like upset. Get used to it, Get used to your own upset, get used to other people's. We don't always have to fix everything and make things go away. If I'm really cross about something and I'm having a bit of a rant, if somebody says to me, whoa, 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 calm down. It's like, no, I'm not doing any harm to anybody else. I've got a right to be cross about that. So, yeah, thank you, but I'll continue. When we're not stepping in to fix, then we're probably in a much safer place. If we're in to support, to observe, to be curious, that's okay because you're not taking a role. And that's the big kind of flag, is what role are you taking? Did you adopt that role? Did you come up with that idea? Just be aware that if you're in that position, you're likely to find yourself in a different role pretty quickly. So if you suspect that you're in this dynamic, and if you suspect that one of the people in this dynamic has narcissist parts, tendencies, or is a fully blown narcissist, then it's really important to kind of understand what's happening there. How is that being manipulated and played? Because a narcissist is extremely good at kind of obfuscating things, at changing the narrative, of saying one thing and doing exactly the opposite. And they can often be quite hard to detect because there'll be an element of truth in it, but the main aim for the narcissist is, one, it's always about themselves, so it doesn't matter what's going on, they only view it through the lens of, well, what about me? If you're doing something that's really good, then that means that I'm not so good. To you it looks like, well, how can you possibly draw that conclusion? A narcissist will. Also, their main aim is control. And control by any means, even to just get you to react in a kind of emotional way or a behavioural way, to change the way that you feel, to change the way that you view that. And they'll take great pleasure in doing that. And you're really, really likely, because narcissists, they come in different varieties and forms with different mannerisms. Some are very grandiose, and they always all have to be right. But the grandiose ones, they'll use a little bit of knowledge to make a huge, great big show of things. And they can be quite difficult to kind of communicate with, and they can be a little bit intimidating. If you're sensing that kind of energy with someone, then there's a good chance that you're being played, you're being manipulated, you're being kind of moved around in this. When you feel you're out of your comfort zone, it's like, oh my God, this feels either, I don't like this, or it feels unsafe, or I don't know what's going on. It's a really good time to kind of back out, talk it through with somebody else. Find a way of trying to shut this down. Because the narcissist will look fantastic. They can do victim brilliantly. They are absolute classics of causing something. And if we put it into this triangle, you've got your narcissist at the top, your rescuer here, and your victim over there. The narcissist will do something quite blatantly dreadful. When they're taken to task on it, they can be outraged. How could you make me feel like I've done something wrong? Or, why are you so offended? What is wrong with you? Oh my God. And even though it sounds ridiculous, they very, very quickly can change it into either everybody having to apologise for upsetting them or not seeing it from their point of view, because they won't back down. And other people in this dynamic may have a conscience and feel empathic and just either want to kind of flatten things out, end things, and they'll end up with holding the blame, holding the responsibility, and the narcissist will be completely free of it, saying, well, I was right, and it all went my way, and basically having complete control over this. So when you feel yourself being kind of pulled and pushed in one direction, if you're like, I don't know what's going on, pause. Have a think about the dynamics that you're in. What's actually going on in here? Not what's being said, not what's being talked about, the actual dynamics of what's passing between these people involved in this. And it can be very revealing. What is that person's purpose for doing that? What do they want to gain out of that? I wonder what that could be of a benefit to them. When you start to look at it in the same way that whenever anybody comes to me, I never look at anything as a problem. A behaviour is a solution to a problem. It's not a problem. We're not putting things in our way. So if you're perceiving something as a problem and things are going wrong, kind of turn it on its head and go, what benefit could somebody be getting out of that? Just kind of shake it up and think about it from a different perspective. Draw this out and go, could I be in this little dynamic here inadvertently? It can just help you look at things in a bit more of an objective way. When we're in the middle of something, we're in it. It's really hard to get a sense of what's going on. When we can step out, observe things a little bit more from a much more kind of rational way, look at it as, you know, a game of chess, or look at it in a different way apart from the things that are being talked about and the stuff that's being discussed. Take that out and have a little think about what's actually going on here. But like I say, what I'm definitely not saying is, oh, never step in to help anybody, because that's nonsense. But do it in a safe way. Do it in a way that you don't take away from anybody or take on something that's not yours, because it can be quite hard to get out of that. You know, oh my God, is that it? You're off now and you haven't done anything, and you're thinking, I've given everything I can possibly give and I'm done. And now I'm seen as, oh well, thanks a bunch for nothing. So if you feel that any of that applies to you, or a situation you're in, or a situation you've been in, or anybody that you know, they might just help to kind of get a bit more of an angle on it and explain what's going on. So if this has been helpful, useful, landed in any way, brilliant, then give us a like and subscribe to our channel, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Okay, bye.